Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and I'm really excited. We have another guest post today, and we're featuring Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys. Let me get that right. Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys, or RCLS, or we'll just call it Roy Cisneros. So it's part of Edgewood ISD. It's a partnership school. It's an International Baccalaureate school. It's a boys-only school, as you can tell from the name. So a very unique school. So to talk to us about Roy Cisneros, we have the school leader, Dr. Mario Duran, and he's the head of school at Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys. And then below me on the screen is we have a repeat guest, D'Les Gonzales. He's the executive director of operations at Texas Council for International Studies, which is the partnership organization for IB schools like Roy Cisneros, but D'Les has also helped us explore the IB schools in San Antonio ISD. So thank you, Mario. Thank you, D'Les, for joining me on Charter Moms Chats, and special thanks to you, Mario, for crafting the blog post that so folks can go to schartermoms.com. It's pinned to the top of the post right now, and you can read more about it. But I want to have a conversation about it so we can explore more about Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys.
Thank you.
Okay, so first question, I want to get to know you a little bit better, Dr. Duran. So can you talk about your background, like your roots in San Antonio, and kind of, what got you to the being a head of school at Roy Cisneros?
So I've been a part of the West Side community all my life. I was actually born in a house about 2 miles from here. And I tell my kids that story and they don't believe me. And we drive by there weekly because the church I go to is right across the street. And I tell them, yes, I was literally born in a house here in the West Side. So with that, my roots are deep here in the West Side. I have walked these streets, since I was young, streets that are in our sister district, SAISD, I've walked them. Uh, and so this community has been a part of me since the beginning. And it wasn't easy at first. There were so many things that I had to experience and learn as I grew up. Uh, but I knew that once I would transition into education and moving forward, that my goal was to come back to the west side of San Antonio. Uh, and so I graduated from Sidney Lanier High School, which is about a mile from here. Uh, and then I went to college. Uh, I actually worked at a private school that's about a minute from here. I worked there for 8 years, and then I moved to two other districts. Within that time, I went to UTSA again. I received first my master's in curriculum and instruction, and then about a year later, I received my master's in educational leadership and policy studies, which is what I got my Ph.D. from. And so UTSA has really also influenced in my approach to pedagogy and the philosophy of education itself. And I knew that I'm lucky enough that I knew I wanted to be an educator from the beginning. I still remember the day I was in eighth grade student. I was in my English class, and the teacher he did an exciting lesson. But I remember asking myself this question. I told myself, I can do better than him. If he just did this, this, and this, he would have kept my attention for the entire 45 minutes. And I still remember that question. From that moment on up until now, my passion for learning and education and innovation has been there. I just try to find fresh ways of approaching the complexities of what we do, which is what Roy Cisneros and IB is about. We we know there's complex issues happening, and we find solutions for them. And so I've been an administrator for about 8 or 9 years, and finally last year I got the privilege of serving here uh, in Roy Cisneros. In August, I was called to come here to Roy Cisneros as the head of school. Uh, Never have I been in an elementary. So it was a shift, but I'm glad beyond expression to be here, a part of Roy Cisneros.
Yeah, well, that's really remarkable that you're still in this same community, and that you've taken your passion, your curiosity, and wanting to be a teacher, and then bringing that back, and all the knowledge you've gained from right, your graduate studies at UTSA. So that's really remarkable, and that's a beautiful thing. And so then you can really help the students who are living and growing up in the same on the same streets that you grew up on. So no, so you mentioned in the blog post you mentioned also just now, like that. So part of your work as a teacher, like, or your experience, is in a high school setting, but Roy Cisneros is actually like it's an academy. It's like a sort of elementary plus middle school. Um, so what was it like to kind of transition? Like, if you're used to more like secondary education, like how do you transition those big ideas but make it work for smaller kids?
It has been a challenge, and at first I didn't think it was going to be this challenging, in because of my approach to just teaching. I mean, everything has been high school. I've also had the privilege of teaching some courses at UTSA, so everything has been either higher ed or high school. And one semester I did teach, or one year I did teach at an elementary, and it was a fifth grade. And I still remember peeling so many oranges and opening so many cartons of milk and tying so many shoes that at the end of that year I said, no, elementary is not for me. And so, I mean, and I continued high school and so forth. But then, uh, so coming here to Roy Cisneros, I wasn't sure what to expect. And, but just like I put in my blog post, and I mean, I hope you have time to read it. It it has reignited my passion for education. Being here with kids, uh, little kids, has really sparked this curiosity, and this childlike curiosity in me to want to be more curious about different things. And it's something that I didn't have in high school. Um, and it's just a different approach. And I humble myself because I'm learning so much from the great staff that we have here at Roy Cisneros, who have years and years in elementary. Every time I sit with my staff, I just absorb everything that they're saying. And when I go into the classroom, I just see kids just. Uh, uh, I've been called dad, and it touches my heart. And in high school you don't get hugs, and now I walk into a classroom and 20 kids rush to me wanting to hug me, and I'm not a hugger, so I'm like, oh my gosh, should I hug you? What should I do? And so I hug them back, and it's just a very beautiful experience. It's a changing of myself, and it's a second skin that I'm putting on my armor of education that I did not have, that I didn't even know that I needed, but I think it's completing me as an educator. So being in an elementary setting has really revolutionized my approach to education, and it's been giving me challenges, but it's been giving me challenges that I'm willing to find solutions to. And I tell my staff here, uh, there are no excuses. We find ways to do the things we're going to do, and so I love it here, and I every morning I drive over here just wanting to be here. You wake up happy, knowing that there's a lot of work, but you want to be here, and it has been a big blessing to me so far.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful thing that you're talking about, like the curiosity that elementary school kids have, and how that rubs off on you, and it reignites your curiosity about education and all the different subjects that they're looking at. And I can imagine it must be a little like I'm kind of an introvert. I am a hugger, but I'm an introvert. But like having like 20 kids come up and want to give hugs, it's like that could be a bit much, but it could also be a beautiful thing.
Mhm. Yes, I
So,
agree.
okay, for the next question, I want to bring D'Les more into the conversation because So I kind of threw that out in the intro that Roy Cisneros is an International Baccalaureate school. It's actually a candidate school, but I was wondering, like, D'Les, can you, so some of our listeners, readers are familiar with IB because we've talked about the IB schools in SASD, but for those who are maybe not familiar with IB yet, can you describe what is the IB framework?
Sure, sure. So, IB is an international framework that is found all throughout the world. It is we call it the gold standard of education. And really, IB has three different levels. They have the primary years program for the elementary age students, the middle years program for your middle school and high school, 9th and 10th graders, and then the diploma program. And diploma students actually can graduate with up to 24 hours of college credit. And so what we're doing at the elementary and the middle school, MYP and PYP levels, is we are building the foundation of an international baccalaureate student. And what that means is we use like Dr. Duran said, we use inquiry, we use concept-based learning, we use interdisciplinary studies, and when we're looking at concepts and learning things, we're making connections not only between the content area, but also concepts conceptually. And that is one of the unique things about IB is all the students in every IB school will be learning about the same concepts, but maybe in just different ways. And so we use the state standards to help implement those concepts. So we're still required to implement state standards, but we're doing it through conceptual learning and through collaboration. That is part of the framework with IB, is that we teach students how to be thinkers and communicators and inquirers. And so we're really teaching them the 21st century skills. We have something called the ATL skills, which are things like communication skills, research skills, et cetera, that all of our businesses nowadays are wanting people to come to. And so those are all embedded in our lessons. And one of the biggest things about IB is something called the learner profile. And really what that is are 10 characteristics that we use to say learners in our schools are going to act in such way. And those things include traits such as like communication. They're going to be reflective. They might be considered to be caring and also open-minded. And so they're learning not only things from within their own community, but the communities around them, the cities and states. And then we look at a global aspect as well in IB. And so all of our learners have to really understand themselves first. And so many of our units, we teach in units. Many of our units start with the student first and then teach them how to think conceptually and about other people and how other people's beliefs and ideas are also right, but so are theirs. And so we're able to start really like asking students to ask questions and wonder about things. And so I love that Dr. Duran has talked about the curiosity that is being ignited in him, because he's having to learn a lot as well too. And I get to see him, since I work very closely with him, and I've been helping the transition of the school into an international baccalaureate school. I get to teach him. And so he's really making those connections. And the transformation over the last year that the campus has had, it's just been phenomenal. Like the teachers are invested in these young boys, and the students are so proud of their work and the things that they're doing. You can walk the halls in Roy Cisneros and you can see the evidence of student learning, the pride that is going on when those young men are wearing their uniforms and they're going out to other schools and being leaders in the community. So it's just a wonderful place to learn how to be a young man, but also really learn how to be a leader and what does it take to be a great human being in this world. And so IB's framework is really about understanding the world around them, learning through different processes in many different ways, and also learning how to accept others. And so Roy Cisneros is a great place to be, and it emulates everything that the IB tries to make sure all of our schools are doing in IB.
Yeah, well, D'Les, that's great. I want to reflect on like that. You made a point about 21st century skills, and I feel like across. I mean, we cover lots of different learning models on SH for Moms. You know, like whether it's classical education or STEM or this, but like it feels like the sense I get among like parents, educators, like businesses, like what are they looking for in their workforce? But it is these 21st century skills. It's like students having initiative and having understanding context. So it's like it's not just knowing the academic information and be able to report that back on a test, but also be able to problem solve and to take initiative on things and communicate what you're doing, work as a team. Like those things are really important. I think, and that's why I try to encourage parents who are researching schools to like look for like how is a school like not just the academic success of the kids, which is essential, but also like what type of learners are they and what type of independent adults are they going to be? What are they taking with them, like
And so
from their
all of
lessons?
our units, all of our lessons are all required to have the learner profile in them. They're embedded in there along with those approaches to learning and skills, things like, self-management, social skills. How are we going to communicate and think about these problems or these challenges or whatever we're learning? And those are things that ignite the learning and they solidify the learning and then actually make the learning from the traditional schooling transferable to something else in the world. And then that's when the connections are being made. And so those are powerful. That is the key to IB, is that we're giving experiences maybe in a different way conceptually or through inquiry, but we're also teaching them how to process all of that and why the importance of that is, and so it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So okay, so I have a kind of brief technical kind of follow-up question for Deleste, and then I want to ask Dr. Duran about like what does it mean that it's IB and an all-boys school? So, but Deleste, can you comment more about like earlier you mentioned about primary years program and middle years program, and I know it took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around what this means in the IB context, and they're even like spelled the British way, so it's like it's a lot to wrap your head around. But like, so can you say what does that mean for Royce's? So in next year, the students it'll be grades K through 8. Is that correct?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay.
Yes. So currently we are K through 7, and there's still 5th grade that is girls, but they will be phased out. So each year we phased out a grade level as we were transitioning. We are currently going through the IB authorization process. That is a 3-year process, and we actually have our IB visits scheduled at the end of May. And so the IB will come and they will evaluate us, and hopefully by July or August, we will become what's called an IB World School, where we actually will have the official title of becoming an IB World School for the PYP program, which is the elementary primary years program. And that goes K through 5th grade. So all students K through 5th grade, it's a wall to wall, even our special education students. And I will say our special education teacher at Roy Cisneros is even doing PYP to the extremes in her classroom, and it's beautiful. But the primary use program is going to be K through 5, and we will be implementing and starting the process for becoming a middle years program candidate school. So the middle years program is 6 through 8. It can go 9 and 10, but currently our campus is only through 8. And so the middle years program is focused for those students. They still follow the learner profile. They still use the approaches to learning skills. But one of the things that they do at the middle school is they look at different types of questions, debatable questions, conceptual questions, and they have factual questions. And those are given at all levels of every unit and the lessons. So students learn how to answer those questions based on the concepts that they're learning. So that's one difference between the primary years program and the middle years program. At the primary program, we are self-contained. And so our teachers teach all subjects. And then at the middle years program, we are departmentalized. One of the wonderful things about both programs is all IB students are required to have a second language. And so all of our students K through 8 receive Spanish. They also receive some type of visual arts, and they also receive a performing arts. And then they also are required to have PE, just like everybody else. But in IB, all of those requirements are considered equal as academic. So they're all level playing field. In MYP, we do have something specific for MYP, which is called a design class. And that is a requirement of IB. And so students really use what we call the design cycle on how to create and develop things. And so it can be embedded into various classes. And we're in the process of, transitioning that as we speak, but that is one of the special things about the MYP program.
Yeah, that's I'm lucky. I've been able to visit IB schools at different levels, right? Like like in SASD, Burbank High School is an IB school, right? And or like Briscoe as sorry, I'm talking about SASD schools, but we'll bring it back to Edgewood. But it's what I've been able to see, and but you see it on like the in the walls and the hallways, like of student work and like how they're making these connections. And so I know I'm excited about the global aspect of it, that it's helping students understand a bigger context, and foreign language is really important to that. Yeah, so there's a lot of benefits to it. But I want to bring Dr. Duran back into the conversation to talk about and D'Les, you can comment on this as well. So of all the IB schools that I've heard of, this is the only one I've heard of that is a single sex campus, and there's not many of those in San Antonio. There's more in the private school world, but very limited in the public school world. And I'm sure that has an impact on the culture, right? Because the learner profile is it's meant to work for boys and girls, but you're able to create a special culture in a boys school. So Dr. Duran, I was wondering if you could comment more about what's it like to bring IB to life, but in a boys only campus.
Yes, it is an interesting challenge. It is a very interesting challenge because we have boys, and boys like to do certain things. They like to play, and they like to just move around. And so it does bring a challenge to be able to keep them engaged in the whole dynamic of education itself. And so we adjust, we pivot, we make sure that we cannot teach an all boys school the way would we be teaching a co-ed. It just doesn't work. And so that's why I tell teachers we need to, this is our complexity, this is our challenge, and how we can address education in a way that can be engaging for our students, and in a way that our boys can feel confident that they can be leaders, and that they are okay with competition, that they are okay with collaboration, and that they know what collaboration is. And it's not you wanting to say your point and that's it. No, how can we grow from true collaboration? And so we work with our students from kinder all the way to 7th grade, and giving them these skills, these what we would call these approaches to learning, this idea of communication skills, which are critical in an IB education. Because just like D'Les was saying, one of our foundation concepts in IB is this idea of international mindedness. And so we tell our students we need to think globally. So everything that you're learning here, boys, you're learning it. And so what? Everyone's learning what you're learning. It doesn't, what makes us different? What makes Roy Cisneros different? If you can learn that here any other school, what's the point? And so that's where we bring in this international mindedness and this learner profile, that we need, these students need to have these particular attributes so that they can have a mindset. Oh, that's what it means. That's what it means to be caring. That's what it means to be disciplined and principled. A perfect example, just today, I was in the gym, and there was a little boy who was on the side that he was upset because they were giving him his turn to play. And I walk in there, I talked to some students, I went to go talk to another student, and on my way back, I see another student who was not even in his grade level put his arm around him and say, here, come over here, let's go play over here. And that really touched my heart, because I was like, we're beginning to see those acts of kindness more and more and more often, and they're organic. We're not telling them to do it. It's just coming. It's just being birthed inside of them with this mindset of what is international mindness means. And although it's not just global, it's actually also within your community and within yourself. You're beginning to find out your identity by being able to understand others. You begin to understand yourself. It's a very it's a beautiful thing to experience. And so with boys, uh, we're beginning to see that, and we're beginning to have leaders who, like I tell them, we need to be confident. We need to be confident. You choose your words wisely, make your words count, and you begin to see our students, their conversations with their peers and with their teachers. You're beginning to see this transformation of enjoying education and being a part of Roy Cisneros. So being an all boys school, there is a challenge, but it's a good challenge, because it's something that the potential is already inside of our boys. It's inside them. It just needs it just needs us to be able to bring it out of them and say, there's so much you can do. And not just that, there's so much that we want our community to know. And that's why this space that Charter Moms has given us is critical, because we want to get this message out that learning can be fun. And there is something beautiful happening in Edgewood ISD and in the west side of San Antonio that can be centered within our boys. And so it's just the beginning. It is just a beginning. And we've done so much so far, but we're just scratching the surface right now.
Right. Well, I can hear it, like you. Well, I have at home. I'm raising a boy and a girl, right? So I can see very dramatically the differences. And there's wonderful energy in boys, right? But it can come out through that competitiveness, and
Yeah.
that's kind of baked in. But you're giving them a chance to also explore their collaborative nature and find, like you said, there's these acts of kindness that are emerging from the culture of the school. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's centered in, the sort of the learner profile and the elements of the IB curriculum that D'Les talked about. And then also there's something you touched on in the blog post, and I was hoping you could, talk more about this, about right. So in the name, it says leadership, right? But also service is really important. And so I was wondering if you could talk about how do you teach leadership? How do you sort of ask students to demonstrate that through service? And, like D'Les talked about, there's this global aspect, but there's also, Dr. Duran, you talked about the community aspect. I want to be rooted in the West Side.
Yes, and on the personal level, I approach serving as an opportunity. I approach leadership uh, as an opportunity to serve. And like I told my staff here, I want to lead with you, and I want to lead together and push our school to be the best school possible. And I tell students here, and I tell our staff, we need to find ways in which we can serve our community, not wait for them to come. This IB principle or perspective is that we need to approach the complexities that are happening in our everyday life. There's so many things that are happening in this world and some of them are global, but some of them are also local. And so I always tell our students, we need to find ways to serve. In your classroom, how can you be a leader? How can you serve your friends? And we see that with these acts of kindness. And so it is very important for us to, as a community, to understand that service is critical for this collaborative approach in what we're trying to do here at Roy Cisneros. So we have a committee of a committee of about 22 student leaders that I wouldn't say maybe around November, they submitted an application to be able to be a part of the student leadership committee. And we did this as like an interview. They did an application, they took it home, parents signed the application, they came in, we interviewed them, and we spoke to them about the expectations. And then from there, we created pods of leadership. So we have leaders who serve in the library. We have leaders who serve in the lunchroom. We have leaders who serve doing attendance for the whole school. We have leaders who actually go to a nearby early childhood center, and they serve as leaders there every other Tuesday in the morning. So we're finding ways to serve our community. And that's what I tell our students. We need to be socially aware of what's going on, because people, we are a part of this global community. And so what can we do to help and collaborate in what we're learning? And so it's something that we're doing and we're driving. And for next year, we have so many more ideas of how students can be servant leaders. And we reached out already to some organizations here near Roy Cisneros, and they were excited. They were, can we start now, like in the month of May? And I said, well, I don't know about that, because there's so many testing going on, but we can definitely plan something and see what we can do. So we're engaging already our community, letting them know that Roy Cisneros boys, they're here, and they're here to cause change in our community. And so that's why I think service is critical to not just Roy Cisneros, but to any school in Bexar County.
Yeah, well, and what great learning opportunities for the students to, get outside the campus and, right, and, I know, like, I think, like, this is a generalization, but, right, like, boys tend to be interested in, like, objects, right, like blocks or trucks or, like, how to build stuff, but making them aware of their social surroundings, making them aware of what problems are out there in the world, that can guide them and motivate them, help them find their passions. And, if you can plant the seeds of that in, elementary and middle school years, that lays the foundation for, more curiosity and, what great learning opportunities for them to, interact with people outside the school and, be ambassadors for the school.
Yes.
So I wanted to call back something that Bill mentioned about, well, okay, we've talked about like things like 21st century skills and the learner profile, but part of that like gets implemented in terms of teaching like life skills, right? And Dr. Duran, you mentioned like they have, if they wanted to be part of this leadership program, they had to interview and submit an application and stuff. So can y'all think of any more examples of like those kinds of life skills that the students are learning while they're at Roy Cisneros?
So in addition to that, I know one of the things that they also do when it comes to lunch. So in the lunchroom, they serve as monitors. And when we first started that program, the students were not able to manage or monitor the way an adult would. And so there wasn't not a respect, but they didn't see the monitor as a monitor. They saw them as another third grader. And so we met with them. We said, no, you are the leader. You are a monitor. What do you think you need to do? And so we gave them scenarios and approach. And so now they know that if they stand by the door, they tell them this is where you stand. So there's this idea of communication skills to be able to tell them, I'm the leader without telling them I'm the leader. And so they're communicating this expectation to their peers, without seeking help from us. Now, there are adults in the cafeteria, so we're there, but we don't get involved in that. And as soon as they finish eating, those monitors, they go by the door, they wait, and they begin to set this expectation for the students from the very beginning. And so that is a critical skill of communication that they have. Another thing that we tell them a lot is it's very important to be on time. Wherever you go, you need to be on time. And so we tell them you need to be on time when you come to school, and you need to be prepared to come to school. So our students are ready to go the moment they are here, and they know the expectations of what it means to be here and to be prepared. We also have some our older students, our seventh grade students. They serve as helpers for the lower grades during our clubs. So we have clubs that happen during the day, and we did that as design because we know where some students they cannot stay after school, which means they cannot enjoy clubs. So we decided to put clubs within the school day so that way everyone participates in clubs. Well, our seventh graders are helpers in those clubs. So they are spread out through all the 11 clubs, and they serve as guides, and they serve as just mentor for our younger students. And this idea of being a caring student and knowing that you are the role model, you are the oldest, you are the role model. What does that mean? What are some characteristics that you as a seventh grader need to showcase so that your younger students can say, oh, I want to be like him? And so it's it didn't start like that, but we're pushing, and we're creating systems and we're creating this culture and this fragrance of just collaboration and just internationally mindedness and what that really means and how to identify who you are.
Yeah, well, I wanna reflect back. You talk about, like, the lunch monitor role or, like, seventh graders helping mentor in the clubs, like, kids are capable of so much, but I think sometimes as adults, we don't necessarily ask them to do it. It's like maybe it's easier just as an "Oh, I'll just take care of it," but, like, it's not the point is not just to get them to do the work, the point is to show, like, I have confidence in you. I'm gonna give you this role. It's a little bit of a stretch, and then, like, "Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this," but, like, just, like, by creating a role for them, right, it's showing that we believe in their competence and that they have more they're capable more than maybe they realize, capable more than we've given them credit for.
Yeah,
I
and,
think
and
that's
on that point, so in like for instance, for attendance and for lunch monitoring and all these other things, we let them fail. We let them struggle because we want them to learn from that. And it's tempting for us to uh, intervene and say, no, do it this way. But through the spirit of PBL, and not PBL as in project-based learning, but more of process-based learning, we want them to understand the process of leadership, that you're going to struggle. What are you going to do about it? And so we let them struggle. Lunch monitoring, okay, we let them struggle. With the other things, we let them struggle so that they can find solutions to, okay, how can this become better? And so and it becomes more internalized for them, and they begin to value it more.
I see D'Les nodding a lot.
The reason I'm just talking, the things that I see are just the pride, right? The transition from when we first started working with Roy Cisneros to now, the boys are proud of being those leaders. They didn't know what that meant before. Like they just didn't have a clue, and they really didn't know the IB learner profile attributes. They didn't understand that it starts with me and then it trickles out into my community and to others. And so the transition to see those young boys doing that, I've been blessed to be there for 3 years and really understand. And, I've been able to work with these students. And when I come on campus, they give me high fives and then, knuckles and all that kind of stuff. But just to see the transition of them over the few years that we've been working with them is just remarkable. Dr. Duran has also implemented some really great things academically, like kids are involved in, taking questions of the day and learning how to be competitive in a positive way, but also pushing their academics, and they get rewarded from donations of like baseball cards, things like that really push the young boys to do their best and to be their best. And they're now starting to believe it. They didn't really understand what that was in the beginning because it was just a traditional school. And so now they're starting to really show those signs of being a leader, and holding themselves to the learner profile attributes. And I will even say, discipline in the campus, students have become more reflective, and those have been the conversations of why did you do that? Like, okay, what could be done differently? And so behaviors of students is also changing, right? And so I think that's very powerful. And when I was a principal, I went through that same thing. And the learner profile really does lead how students start to think and behave. And once they start behaving in that way, they don't necessarily go back, right? And they can't be different because they've started thinking differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're more awake to those concerns, right? Like what you do as an individual impacts your community and impacts the global
It
situation.
impacts your friends. It impacts another classroom. It impacts their school. I mean, and before then, they might not have even thought of that in that way.
Yeah. Dr. Duran, you want to comment on the school culture aspect, discipline?
Yeah. So the school culture is transforming me also, and it's becoming a way of just me appreciating being here every day. The students, they have a smile. When there's discipline, let's restore it and to make it positive. And so we find ways how the students can identify with what they did and not just be punitive, but rather, okay, let's restore your behavior and what can we learn from it. And they know what they did wrong. Um, and so just today, two students stopped me, one during lunch and one during the day. He told me there's no more questions on the Harmony Wall of Inquiry. So it's where they get challenge questions, they fill them out, and then they submit into the front office. And at the end of the week, we pick winners. And two students stopped me and they said, "There's no more questions. Can you put some more?" And 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 we've been hearing that for several weeks now. So they anticipate uh, this challenge on a positive note. It's a positive collaborative approach to a healthy challenge. And so sure enough, I came to my office, I made the copies and I put them back. And so they it's this my whole philosophy is I want to make learning fun. Learning can be fun. And interestingly, coming from high school to elementary, it's very similar to the birth of IB. If I'm not mistaken, I think it happened back in 1968, and it started with a DP program, which is a high school, and it transitioned eventually to PYP and then NYP. And I'm like, maybe I was born to do this, because I mean, I came from high school and now I'm deconstructed into this educator where everything is just coming to fruition, and so the culture is very positive, and we push our teachers to just be collaborative and to be lifelong learners ourselves, which is what we want of our students. And I value the staff here so much, and I depend on them so much to lead the school. And I think inviting them into this space of leadership has created this fragrance of positive and just purposeful goals that we have. Every meeting that we have as a staff, we start with our mission statement and we read it. Every meeting since August 12th, August 6th that I met them, up until this last Monday when I met them, we start with our mission statement, because I don't want to lose focus of why we are here as educators. And the teachers, they're approaching this idea and this new approach, and I sit back and I'm thinking to myself, this is just the beginning. There's so much more that we're going to do with this campus, and that's why it's exciting, and I think that's why the culture is moving in this direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to get to help tell this story. And this conversation is I think useful because you were talking about all these different elements, right? So it's like, D'Les, shared about the learner profile and the framework, right? And then, Dr. Duran, you're sharing these great stories about things happening on campus and, this transformative culture, right? It's challenging you, working with younger kids, and then also, making sure you include your staff and, making sure that yeah, I love the story about the kids being like, hey, where's the questions? I want more questions. Like, because then you're appealing to their own natural drive, to want to do the stuff. And instead of it being a struggle, between leadership, authority, and the kids, it's like the kids are like, oh, we get to do this. Like, we get to ask these questions. There's rewards for it. Like, so it's calling on the best things in their nature.
We also have this program that's we called it a literacy launch, and it's they write every morning. They write in their journals, and they have a prompt, and they do that every single day. And we call out numbers, and they bring down the journals, and then we have a teacher that reads them and gives them back to them. And we have students, throughout the day tell us, "Can you call my number again?" And we just called it like last week, and they want their numbers to be called. And just today, and it happens every day, they bring down their journals with this big smile. Like, they're so proud of what's on their journal. And that's what we want, because we tell them, whatever you write there, you need to be proud of it, because you need to own it. And so they come down proud of their journals. They put it in the bucket, and they get it back later with notes. So we read it, and there's comments and notes, and put a sticker, and we give it right back to them. But and that focuses on writing, and the other focuses on math. So yes, we tap into their interest, and it's becoming a healthy challenge for them. And the prizes that we give are baseball cards and basketball cards and football cards, and they love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've shared so many great stories, but like before we close off, and I want to make sure people know how to find the website and things like that. But before we close off, are there any other stories that come to mind that you feel like demonstrate the culture at Roy Cisneros?
One of the biggest things that we are about here at Roy Cisneros is identifying needs in our community, this international mindedness, and responding to it and reflecting on it. And so several months ago, unfortunately, one of our police officers from our district was in a car accident, and she was in a coma. And so our students, through one of our specials teachers in art, created this book for her, where they put get well, notes and letters, and they created it, and then they bind it, and it became like a book. And at the front, it says something like, "We're here for you, and we care about you." And then they delivered it to this police officer. And I think that's what Roy Cisneros is about. Yes, we're going to get the TEKS done. We're going to get the learning done. That's going to happen. But this other rich component of reaching out, of being functional knowledge, of caring, is what is the beautiful thing. And our students were able to provide this gift and this gesture to this person who they probably never knew, but they knew the story because we mentioned that. And so, like, that is what we're doing every single day, where they begin to see and they value the person in front of them more than themselves, and we're pushing towards that.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, what a great story. I wanted, I always like to close out and make sure that there may be people in our audience who weren't aware, right? That about, like, I mean, I know, and we've talked about, like, the schools of innovation in Edgewood ISD, but we hadn't really focused specifically on Roy Cisneros, or like the fact that it's both an IB candidate school and an all boys school. And so I want to make sure people know how to find it. It also, like you mentioned about that all kids get to participate in clubs during the school day, and they all, like D'Les mentioned, about things like the arts and the foreign language. And those are things that come up in our Facebook group, where parents are saying, hey, I'm looking for a school that has these, and they might not be aware that this is something available in Edgewood. So I guess what advice do you have for families who are, of course, and we have an enrollment guide about Edgewood ISD innovation schools on our website, but what avenues would you suggest for families who want to learn more and want to look at, enrolling their boys at Roy Cisneros? Oh, oops, D'Les, unmute.
So sorry, I apologize. I was on mute. I wanted to share that I think one of the most powerful things is visiting the campus, right? You can walk in the school and see that this is not a traditional school. You will see different aspects at Roy Cisneros that you would not see in a traditional school. You can see the aspects of the learner profile. You can see the type of student created work. You're not going to see worksheet after worksheet, and you're going to see students that are engaging in different types of learning. They're going to maybe not be in the classroom. They might be in the university center. They might be on their outside learning area. They might actually, be in a different situation than in a regular classroom. And so I think, if you're interested in having your boys come to Roy Cisneros, you can call the school and you can set up tours. They love doing tours. They love having people come and learn about the campus. And so I think that is one of the best ways for you to actually see what's happening. Dr. Duran, do you have any others?
Actually, that was the one I was going to promote the most. Come by. Our doors are always open to anyone that would like to come by. We can walk the school. You can ask questions. We can take you to our facilities that we have, our library, our spaces that we use. So we invite parents, we invite anyone to come by and set up a tour. You can also look for us online. You can just type in Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys. You can get information on about the school there. I know the district, we are transitioning into a new website format, so maybe it's not updated as much as we would want to. So that's why we invite parents to come down and just for firsthand be able to absorb what Roy Cisneros is about, and we're more than willing to sit down and have a conversation.
The other aspect, if you want to learn more about IB and what an IB school looks like, you can go to ibo.org and you can look and research different IB, what it means to become an IB World School. And there's different aspects from the students to the teachers to the parents. So you can really get a better understanding of the framework that we use and look at some parent resources there.
Yeah, the IB website is great. They do a good job explaining what these different things mean. And so as Dr. Duran mentioned, so like for folks listening on the podcast, maybe not seeing it on the screen, but so Roy Cisneros, ROYCISNEROS.EISD, which stands for Edgewood ISD.net. So that's the website. And then in the description of the video, you can click on the link and that'll take you to Dr. Duran's guest blog post, and that also has links to like the Edgewood, website and the IB website and our enrollment guide, that has like the overview of the schools of innovation in Edgewood ISD, because it is an all-choice school district. Every campus has a unique learning model, which is really exciting about Edgewood ISD. They're really at the forefront of serving students with all these different learning models. So
anybody from all of Bexar County can enroll. So they don't have to just be in Edgewood ISD. They can be all over the city of San Antonio. So, we welcome all young men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, great. Okay. Well, thank you all so much, especially Dr. Duran for writing the guest blog post, and many thanks to both of you for coming, answering all these questions about. I've really enjoyed learning more about Roy Cisneros Leadership School for Boys, and I understand better like what it means, how unique it is to be both an IB candidate school and an all-boys school, and what an opportunity it is to have a free public school that's open to kids, like boys across Bexar County.
Yes, thank you
so much for having us. Go Mustangs!
Yes, go Mustangs!
Go Mustangs! All right, take care, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.